really just want to kill him. I imagine that's card's probably been sweet for him when he draws it. It's not super threatening, but it can obviously have a lot of impact in a game.
So Nguyen's going to start off with the Blood Crypt here. Both players look like they're keeping their hands. Again, Nguyen is 7-0. Masters sitting at 6-1.
It's actually the other way around.
Okay, so Masters is the 7-0 player, and Nguyen is 6-1. Masters is the one who cannot draw.
Correct.
So that's the tough part for him. He's going to start by playing a Temple and scrying and passing the turn back. Always sucks when you can't draw at the 7-0 table.
Just fight. Just be a man about it.
I don't want to fight. I want to be able to draw and move on with life.
Just think of it as practice. Like, worst case scenario, you get a little better at Magic, right?
That's definitely one way to look at it. I can't argue with what you were saying. Celestia and Gilgit going to come into play for Masters. Mountain here from Nguyen. So let's see what the first play is actually going to be. And it is going to be a Boros Reckoner.
Yeah, first one to get a Boros Reckoner down is going to have some serious initiative in this kind of matchup, as they can then, attack into Boros Reckoner. It'll be up to the other player to trade, but in general, I like to be the attacker here.
Stomping Ground going to come into play untapped for Masters, going to put him down to 18. He does have a Smiter in his hand. He also has a Reckoner. He can cast either one of those right now, so we'll see exactly what he wants to lead out on, and it is going to be a Reckoner.
It's going to be the Reckoner. If, as we said, Hien attacks, Joseph can propose a trade that'll cost him 3 life.
How about a removal spell instead?
Removal spell instead will also cost Joseph 3 life, but this time it's probably going to be a little bit more on the next turn as well.
Hero's Downfall takes care of that Boros Reckoner as Nguyen passes the turn back, but plays the Sacred Fountain beforehand, which is important, obviously, because now he has access to white mana. Masters has got a better idea of what he's playing against. Here's a Loxodon on Smiter to get in front of that Reckoner, presumably, as he does pass the turn back. Chained to the Rocks, though. A very nice draw there for Nguyen.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that Joseph decided to go with Smiter the second time around after going with Reckoner the first time. He has another Reckoner in his hand, so I'm kind of curious what thought process changed for him here.
Yeah, it feels like I'm going to be in the same situation, so I'm kind of with you. The Mortar's just going to efficiently take down the Smiter. Going to let Reckoner come across for 3 more points of damage, put Masters down to 12. See if he has a follow-up play, or it might just be a little bit more removal heavy. I know that Nguyen does have he has an Obsidian hiding out in his hand right now, so he's got one of these draws where he's just going to go kill your guy, keep attacking, kill your guy.
Yeah. Joseph has drawn a Amizium Mortars. He can use that to handle the Reckoner. It'll cost him 4 life, but it also will refuse to trade one of his creatures away. He's going to go with the Reckoner this time around. He's going to hope that this is going to work out. Obviously, we know that it won't. Chain to the Rocks will chain down that Reckoner.
I mean, what we could see here, too, is, now that Nguyen has just drawn another land, and it's actually another white source, now he has an Obsidian in his hand, we could see just A, Reckoner come in and they trade off, or B, no attacks from the Reckoner, and then just play Obsidian and pass. But he's going to start by getting in with Reckoner.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to, I assume, play the Obsidian, allow this trade to happen. They each take 3 damage. And now he's going to play Upset. I actually don't like this play against a Naya deck, though, because it's kind of like exposing yourself to Selesnya Charm when you're ahead.
Sure.
Unless, he has a Blood Baron instead.
That changes things.
Yeah, never mind. Yeah. Now I love this play.
Yeah.
There are not a lot of cards that Joseph can have. Mortars is really the only one, and he probably would have Mortars that Reckoner a while ago, right? Right? But he drew the Mortars last turn, so...
So now Masters is going to try to take the initiative back in this game. Mortars takes care of Blood Baron. He plays the Fleecebane Lion post-combat. You see his hand. He's got a Goreclan Rampager, another Reckoner, a Smiter, and a Celestia Charm. So he's not in 2 spell range just yet. Going to need a land to be able to do that. But he's starting to turn the tide back in his favor. And assuming that Nguyen does have that Obsidian like we think he does, here's a Chain to the Rocks. I may have mistaken it may have been a Boros Reckoner. He's going to be in good shape, but it looks like just Chain to the Rocks going to enchant that mountain, take care of the Lion. He might be stuck just passing the turn back.
Yeah, I'm not excited about Chain to the Rocks on a 3/3 here because every creature in Joseph's deck is about this good.
Sure.
Obviously, the Lion can upgrade into a 4/4, but Nguyen's deck actually matches up pretty well against a 4/4. He's got Obstats, he's got Blood Barons, he's got Desecration Demons. It's not the craziest to make Joseph waste 2 turns on creating a threat.
So we see Masters here is going to lead out with Domri instead of playing a threat. So he wants to start finding some more creatures, puts the top card back after looking and passing the turn. Would you have rather opted to get a creature on the board or play Domri and get that established?
Not at all. I love playing the Domri here. Nguyen is representing that he had access to some removal by passing the turn here. Clearly he didn't have a threat. So why not play the Domri? It's going to go uncontested by a creature because Nguyen doesn't have one.
Sure.
So worst case scenario, you're trading the Domri and for a Hero's Downfall or a War Leader's Helix, as we just saw happen, but you get a free look at a creature, you might just net a card out of the deal. It's not that likely that your creature is going to have a high impact, but the Domri, left unchecked, could have won the game.
Gotcha. Well, you see Rakdos Keyroom there from Nguyen, passes the turn back to Masters. Masters going to play a Loxodon Smiter, does have access to Selesnya Charm because that top card was a land. He's deciding if he wants to play the dual land, tapped or untapped. He's going to go down to 7 to be able to represent Selesnya Charm. That is dangerous in this situation.
Not only is it dangerous to go down to 7 against a deck that has just shown us it has War Leader's Helix in it, but I also don't like it because we just stapled Selesnya Charm to our foreheads.
Yeah.
Like, he knows that it's there now. It's very unlikely we would take the 2 damage to bluff it. And even if we would, that play would rely on your opponent also being willing to acknowledge that, taking 2 life there is 100% a Selesnya Charm. So, like, I think it's pretty clear, but, you've got a lot of variables going on.
All right, well, in comes the Rakdos Keyroom. We'll see if Nguyen can see the Selesnya Charm here, which just a block is going to happen, and then Anger of the Gods is going to finish that off, which, that's fine. You're very happy with that if you're Masters, I think.
I think that's fine. It's a 2-for-1 on his end. You'll note that Nguyen did beat Selesnya Charm there. He wasn't silly about it, but...
So that looks like that might end up costing Masters. I mean, it's going to cost him 2 life, obviously, but don't know if it's going to end up costing him the game. Here's a Boros Reckoner for Masters. He's got a Voice of Resurgence too, but still leaving up Selesnya Charm.
Yeah, it's possible that he's leery of some kind of hasted threat, but I don't know which one specifically it could be, really.
Yeah, Stormwrath Dragon, obviously you can't Selesnya Charm for a couple of reasons. First of all, second of all, I think you just want to get Voice to the table because, again, you want to close out the game as fast as you can if you're Masters. Cut the number of draw steps that Nguyen can have so you don't play this game any longer.
Right.
So he's going to play a Voice of Resurgence, and Masters is going to keep holding on to that Gore Clan Rampager. When's the time to actually put that on the battlefield? Because I think you'd be very happy actually having a 4/4 out there and just close the game out in 2 turns if you can.
Well, Cedric, you can Gore Clan Rampager your opponent's Aurelia and Selesnya Charm it. So there's that. Yeah, I don't think that's a realistic.
Yeah, I don't think that's what's going to happen here, Glenn. I don't know. I'm kind of new to the booth here, so you may have seen some more things than I have over the course of your days. Yeah, but I don't think that's a thing that's going to happen. In for 5 comes Masters, going to put Nguyen down to 11, and still not playing the Rampager.
Yeah, I agree with going ahead and playing it, but it does not appear like it's going to matter significantly the way this game is going.
So now here's a Reckoner from Nguyen. Master's going to untap his 2 creatures, draw a card, another Voice of Resurgence. Doesn't have a huge impact on this board. Looks like he's going to play it pre-combat just in case Nguyen does have removal spell, but I think it's pretty clear he doesn't have one.
Pretty clear he's on air, and pretty interesting if we decide to attack here. It looks like we are. Wow, if I'm Nguyen, wow, really? I think I would just jump in front of the Voice, probably. I'm expecting this Gore Clan Rampager, and that's why. Like, now, I'm just going to get eaten up.
Rampager's going to get Blood Rush. Is going to turn Reckoner into a 7/7, 3 damage. Going to go over. Oh no! Oh no!
That's what I'm saying.
Yep.
I would not have attacked here for specifically that reason. There are so few combinations that we can lose to, and War Leader's Helix is one of them. Like, what's Nguyen going to do on the next turn? Is he going to attack into us? Because then we just block with a Voice and kill him.
Sure.
The attack really doesn't shorten Joseph's clock any. Unless he's getting Hien for lethal that turn, there's not really a lot of benefit to attacking.
So that's a lethal War Leader Helix that does happen there from Nguyen to give him game number 1 over Joseph Masters. Masters trying to turn the corner and get the game over with, but he wasn't able to do it quickly enough. Gave Nguyen a necessary amount of draw steps to be able to get back in the game. He ends up peeling off a Boros Reckoner and a War Leader's Helix and wins the game because of it.
Yeah, and War Leader's Helix, obviously it's going to be pretty tough to beat a War Leader's Helix in that game anyway. I'm not going to say that that's not true. Like, Nguyen had plenty of draws that could really just turn that game around and let him attack even just for lethal on the next turn with a Boros Reckoner. So I think that, the attack is fine, but I think that our best odds actually lay in just passing turn back.
And also, let's not forget one thing either. You saw on that turn, 3 damage from the Reckoner, put him from 7 to 4, 4 to 0. We go back a few turns back, that's Selesnya Charm. That 2 damage from the dual land actually ends up mattering there. Where Selesnya Charm, if you remember the end of the game, what was the last card in Master's hand? Selesnya Charm never gets cast over the course of the game, so paying that 2 life to represent that on that one particular turn ended up, you could argue, being the reason that Masters ends up losing that game.
Yeah, we also can acknowledge the turn where we delayed playing Voice in order to actually just hold Selesnya Charm up again. That's obviously going to have an impact. We lost 2 damage because of that. Not playing the Rampager to actually just attack for 4. We could have gotten an extra 4 there. There are a lot of points. If you play that Rampager, that War Leader's Helix probably just has to aim at it, right?
Yeah, it has to just go at the Rampager, sure.
And even if it doesn't, even if the correct play is to save the Helix, try and go to the Dome, it gives the opponent heavier incentive to make a misplay, which is not nothing. You want to try and get people to make the wrong plays.
Yeah, I mean, anytime that you can have an opponent make a mistake, you're giving yourself the best opportunity to win there. And I don't really feel that Masters gave Nguyen the best opportunity to make a mistake, and that's why Nguyen is up a game here. As we transition into the sideboards, you've got Masters deck list in front of you, so I'll let you take a look at the sideboard here first of the Naya deck, so he can see if he can turn things around against this black-white-red mid-range deck.
Why, thank you. Well, he's got a pretty interesting little sideboard here. He has 5 1-ups, which are all pretty peculiar, but most of them are completing cards that are already in the main deck. He has a Selesnya Charm and a Mizium Mortars. Obviously, he has 2 of each of those in the main deck. And then he also has access to 1 Rurikthar the Unbowed, 1 Chandra Pyromaster, and 1 Assemble the Legion. I think there's debate on all 3 of those cards being pretty reasonable. Assemble the Legion is a fine card against any other mid-range strategy in general. I'm not going to be too unexcited to try and get someone with it. Chandra Pyromaster, same deal, very powerful card. And Rurikthar the Unbowed, when you're the more spell-light deck, he's a pretty serious threat. You just drop him, and the opponent at least has to pay 6 life to get rid of him. So I think I like all 3 of those cards. Beyond that, he has access to 2 Glare of Heresy, which is an efficient answer to Boros Reckoner, and can sort of maybe get an Obsidat sometimes.
Ish.
But I'm not excited about it. I probably wouldn't board them in. Maybe 1, just because drawing 1 against a Boros Reckoner is going to be a huge swing. And then he does have access to 3 Boros Charms. I would actually be pretty interested in these. They can clock for 4 damage. That's not nothing. And the Indestructible comes up in a lot of interesting spots. It's obviously no good against Chain to the Rocks, but if your opponent's trying to Heroes Downfall your guy or whatever, you Boros Charm to protect it. It lets you also attack shamelessly into Boros Reckoners, because you can just give your guys Indestructible after they block, and then all you do is take 3 to the face and eat his Reckoner.
Yeah, which is a win for you, obviously.
Yeah, that's a fine use of the card. So I wouldn't be surprised to see those cards come in. So he's got options. I'm not really sure. I don't think he can afford to bring in like 8 cards. So it'll be interesting to see what he decides to board in and out.
I mean, there are options over here for Nguyen as well. He's got a Glare of Heresy over here as well. He's got Rakdos Return, 2 copies of Slaughter Games, 3 Thoughtseize, an Anger of the Gods, to go along with the ones that he does have in his main deck, 2 Wear and Tear, 2 Underworld Connections, 2 Shock, and a Pithing Needle. We're in a mid-range matchup here, so the first thing that jumps to my mind is the 2 copies of Underworld Connections. They're going to be slogging it out back and forth. Haymakers, we just saw in that game where Nguyen was just looking at top deck to get back into it.
Sure.
I'm sure he'd been very happy paying a life to get another card to turn things around in his favor. Shock, not so much here. The creatures from Naya side are much too big for that. Same thing can be said about 2 Wear and Tear, just really not that great here. How do you feel about the additional Anger of the Gods?
I think the Anger of the Gods is fine. As we saw in that game, Joseph, got a bunch of voices out, and they were pretty obnoxious. They could have easily wound up winning Joseph the game if it had gone a little bit differently. But I know we're already bringing in that Glare of Heresy at a minimum, so it's possible we don't need to go to 4 Anger. There are, after all, a lot of creatures it doesn't kill. However, it is handy that it kind of, restricts the utility of Fleecebane Lion, Scavenging Ooze, and Voice of Resurgence all at the same time.
I mean, the question is how much removal do you actually want to board in here?
Yeah.
I think Glare is very easy to board in. Again, I'm kind of with you. Like, do you want to board in that 4th Anger? You take a look at Nguyen's main deck. He has 2 Chain to the Rocks, 2 Warleader's Helix, 2 Doomblade, 2 Mizium Mortars, a Hero's Downfall, 3 Anger of the Gods, 2 Dreadbore as his removal. So he's got a ton of removal already. Do you actually need more to be able to win?
When you read off that list, my first instinct was actually maybe I should board out an Anger of the Gods for that Glare of Heresy. So
sure.
That's a sure sign I probably don't want the 4th one.
And of course, he does have a little bit of card drawing. He's got 3 copies of Wreath of Bones to be able to keep things going. And then he's got his efficient threats as well. Again, Desecration Demon, Reckoner, 2 Obsidat, 2 Blood Baron, and Aurelia. But how much does he actually want to change the composition of his deck? Does he actually need more removal when you have such good efficient removal and good efficient threats? It's kind of tough to say.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's in a fine spot as far as his actual quantity of removal. You don't really want to change the formula too much. And if you look at his sideboard, he obviously feels pretty comfortable in the matchup, right? Like, there's not a lot of cards he wants to bring in here.
Yeah, I think he wants to be playing, I think Nguyen wants to be playing against other mid-range decks this weekend. I think those are the things that he's probably beating up on. His deck feels very, Jundish from last season. Again, not the same power level of cards like Olivia and Thragtusk, but the same overall game plan of just kind of Haymaker magic with, a lot of removal and efficient threats, and see if your mid-range deck can basically stand up to it. And a lot of mid-range decks couldn't do that then. I don't know if they can do it now against this particular build of Black, White, Red.
Joseph is on the play, and he starts out with a Fleecebane Lion. We'll see if Nguyen has an answer to it immediately off the bat, because otherwise he's going to be under a fair bit of pressure pretty early.
Yeah, and this is where you want to be if you're Masters. You just want to put Nguyen underneath a lot of pressure. You want to have a start like Fleecebane line plus any 3-drop that you have in your deck.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be a Smiter or a Reckoner. I think Domri is fine too, but you just want to go 2-drop, 3-drop, 4-drop.
Yeah.
And put him on the back foot immediately and make him have to go removal, because this way it makes a card like Desecration Demon so much worse. So it actually shuts off one of his cards that way.
Yeah, I very much agree with you. And Joseph does lead out with the Domri. Domri is not the ideal 3, as it doesn't really help us against a Boros Reckoner that Nguyen could play, and that would really disrupt our plans. But at a minimum, you're getting something on the board. You might be able to get some card advantage going long. And Joseph is actually short lands in his hand, so even Domri misses are actually kind of good for him.
Sure.
Worst case scenario, he's more likely to find a land each turn than he was before.
You see, Nguyen a little bit slow on this turn, trying to figure out what he wants to do. He does have a Godless Shrine in his hand that he's going to play untapped, so it's going to knock him down to 15. And it looks like we might see a Hero's Downfall, but where is it going to go is actually a pretty interesting question.
Yeah. He's going to 15, so if he decides to downfall the Domri, he's going to be going to 12 on the next turn. The fact that he decided... he passes turn, makes us think it's going to be the Lion, and then upkeeps it on the Domri. All
is there
right.
any way to punish him for that? Boros Charm is just creatures. No,
Boros Charm is permanent.
Yeah.
You could have got punished there for sure. Boros Charm could have definitely saved that Domri raid.
So in for 3 comes Masters with the Fleecebane Watchwolf. Gonna knock Nguyen down to 12, and Master's just gonna pass the turn back. Now, we know he has a Scavenging Ooze in his hand that he's opting not to cast. He's keeping up Celestia Charm again, and I really feel like over the course of this match, he's just been overvaluing that card.
Yeah, there's not a lot of cards that you're going to really want to Selesnya Charm here. For one, if Nguyen has, say, Warleader's Helix, he's going to cast it on your turn regardless, probably. He just demonstrated that tendency with his own Hero's Downfall. While I think, if you tap out, obviously he should Helix on his own turn. Yeah, there are a lot of things people should do. And if you get the other creature onto the board, then even if he has it, the tempo loss you're creating, it doesn't matter that much. You still have another dude in play. And another dude in play is exactly what you want when your opponent casts Desecration Demon. Because now he has to blow the charm anyway.
Yep. So here's a Celestia Charm to take care of the demon. He's going to untap, we'll draw. He's going to attack Nguyen down to at least 7 here.
Yep.
But what's he going to do after that? I don't know, because it feels like he's playing around a lot of different things. He's trying to play around Anger of the Gods and a couple of different things. That maybe the reason he didn't play the Scavenging Ooze because an Anger 2 for ones him and sets him back pretty far. But how many things can you realistically play around at this point in the game?
Yeah, if Nguyen doesn't have Anger of the Gods right there, you're in a pretty great spot. Even Warleader's Helix, I would consider us a favorite.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, even so, and Desecration Demon was like the best case scenario.
You see Master's hand right now, he does have Mysian Mortar, Scavenging Ooze, and he is also looking at an Assemble the Legion, which is a nice way to be able to grant him some inevitability. And so now he's going to play the Scavenging Ooze and open himself up to Anger of the Gods, which I think is fine here, but I would have liked to see the Ooze last turn, so then he could have gotten in, maybe, remove a creature, and make the Ooze a little bit bigger and kill the Desecration Demon. One thing to keep in note as well is that Desecration Demon is exiled from the Celestia Charm. Correct?
Yeah.
So he should not be able to gain a life.
Right. No. Yeah. We need to.
And we will stop that and make sure that there is no life gain, because that's already removed from a Celestia Charm, as are the creatures that are killed via Anger of the Gods.
Yeah, that shouldn't have happened.
Yep.
All right.
So life totals will stay the same. Just want to make sure our game state is correct here.
Good catch, Cedric. Good catch. And now we're just going to slam Assemble, right?
Yep.
Assemble #game. If Nguyen doesn't answer it real quick,
yeah, I mean
that could be what happens.
That's what Master's hoping for. There's the kind of a question mark at the end of your statement.
Yeah.
Assemble game question mark? Well, we'll see.
It's basically Glare of Heresy or bust, right? I don't think he has any other solutions that he'll have reasonably boarded in.
Yeah, I mean, 2 copies of Wear Tear that are in the sideboard. I'm with you. I don't expect him to actually board that card in. But, I mean, if we do go to a third and final game, it does beg the question of, is this a card that you do want to board in now?
Even if I lose this game to Assemble, I wouldn't want to board in Wear Tear. Like, the odds of Masters having more than 2 Assembled Legion in his entire 75, pretty low.
Yeah.
I would say almost 0, in fact.
Here's an Obsidian Ghost Council from Nguyen. Again, Nguyen does have a Blood Baron of a Scope in his hand that he could have played, but he chose not to because of Mysian Mortars, maybe from the last game. So, the Obsidian comes into play. It triggers a little drain, a little brain, as Brian Braundewan would say. In comes the token from an Assemble the Legion, and this is what Masters is going to try to do to win the game. We just don't know if it's going to be good enough.
Yeah, he has to outlast that Obsidian, which is actually going to be a little tricky. He's probably just going to pay the token tax every turn, leave one guy back, block every single turn. Or maybe he's going to get real aggressive here. I don't like trading 1 for 5 when it's 14 to 7. This is too bold. Too bold, sir.
Pump the brakes.
Yeah.
You don't have to attack, but it looks
Dude,
like...
I like to ball hard, but not this hard. This is too much.
You see Masters really weighing his options if he should attack, and he's going to get into the red zone with the token. So Nguyen's going to go down to 6 for now. Here's a Loxodon Smiter. And we know again that Masters does have Mizzy Mortars in his hand. He's going to pass the turn back. That Smiter not great in this situation again because it cannot block. And if you're Nguyen, you're not going to play around Celestian Charm because Celestian Charm would kill the Obzat anyway. So you're just going to get in the red zone.
The only real reason I would go for the 1 here is if I was representing a 2-turner on the next turn.
Okay.
But we're only going to get in for 7. So like Nguyen was already only going to go down to 1, even if nothing bad happens to us. And in general, when I'm playing Magic, I like to assume something bad is going to happen to me.
Yeah.
I think that that's a pretty safe assumption.
Because in most cases it will.
Yeah, exactly. We definitely can't block now. Like that would be the effect of us trading, 1 damage for 4
Yeah.
the wrong way. So we'll take the 5.
Now there's the Blood Baron.
Yep. Well, that guy's not going to be long for this world, fortunately for Joseph. He does have a Mizzy Mortars in hand. It's an awkward card to have to keep in this specific matchup, but here we are.
So now 2 more Assemble Legion tokens are going to come into play. You see 7 damage being represented when sitting at 8. So if Masters were to draw a card like Celestian Charm, it gets the job done, but he doesn't have it. So now what is he going to attack with? Does he attack with 3 guys? Does he attack with... Obviously not going to attack with all of them, I don't think. I mean,
If he
he's sitting at 8.
Them, then he could very easily die.
Yeah.
The easy play Nguyen could make was actually just chain a guy, maybe he has another land, chain another guy, and then he licks the dome, and that's just the ball game right there. It's not that crazy.
So he's going to come across for 5, put Nguyen down to 3, and then Nguyen's going to move up to 5. So you see the light totals: 5 for Nguyen, 6 for Masters. Does Nguyen have a card like War Leader's Helix? You see him reaching for his mana, separating things. Looks like he might have 5 mana to use. I think he might have another Blood Baron over there, Glenn.
Wouldn't we prefer these life totals to be 6 to 11 in Masters' favor? Because I think Masters' position would be so much stronger if that was how he'd opted to use that soldier token.
Yeah.
6 to 11 feels real safe. 5 to 6, not so safe. Not so safe.
Let's see what Nguyen's going to do here. Again, we know that he has a Desecration Demon, which is obviously very poor in this board position, and we know that he has a Blood Baron of Escopa, and it looks like he's going to go with the Blood Baron. Now, I think his last card might be a Chain to the Rocks.
I definitely see a Chain to the Rocks.
Yep, and so that's going to take care of the Smiter, and I actually think this allows Nguyen to be able to attack with an Obsidian this turn.
He definitely... Can he swing? His opponent is going to get 3 tokens, so he'll be taking 5 but gaining 4. Yeah, he's fine to swing. He'd be, risking death to like Storm Breath Dragon or something, but I'm not even 100% on that.
All right, so Assemble the Legion. 3 more tokens coming into play. Let's see what Masters draws for his turn. It's a Selesnya Guildgate, so just 2 lands in Masters' hand right now.
Actually, we probably should have. I don't know. We probably should have exiled Obstat because we would be able to kill our opponent if he bricks. Right?
Yeah, you just want to
You'd have exactly lethal if Masters just draws anything that doesn't kill you.
Yeah, sure. Blood Baron having pro white here
right.
is the important part, so it can actually get through, and then the Obzat trigger puts Masters down to 4, and then Blood Baron just gets through for the W, assuming that your opponent does brick. And even like a green card is kind of a brick right now.
Any creature's not really good enough unless it has haste. But any hasted creature is pretty close to good enough in this spot anyway, because now you'd have to survive that hasted creature for 2 turns because you didn't put him on the clock. But Nguyen definitely has outs. All he needs is a War Leader's Helix or any other way to go to the face.
Blood Baron comes across, going to put Masters down to 2, Nguyen up to 9, and there's the
War
Leader's Helix again. So Nguyen is going to win this match 2-0 over Joseph Masters. Black, white, red mid-range, deck that Jerry Thompson has been a very big fan of in his premium articles, does defeat Naya pretty convincingly.
And now if we were at 7 right there, and by gaining that 5, by blocking that Obzat, our opponent's only War Leader's Helixing up to 10, we were going to have 4, 7, we were going to have 9 tokens.